Hey guys, Level Cap here. Today we're going to be doing a state of the game video on PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, getting you guys up to date on what's going on with PUBG regarding patches, the community, and other things surrounding this incredibly fast-growing IP. Now, in the wake of the Gamescom Invitational, other tournament hosters for PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds are starting to sort of solidify or modify their rule set. A popular one, PUBG Online, the Showdown Tournament Series, has stated that they're only going to be competing in first-person perspective. This isn't particularly surprising considering how much viewers favored the first-person mode and how the action was significantly more entertaining in first-person perspective versus the third-person perspective from the Invitational Tournament. So the fact that we're seeing other smaller tournaments or third-party tournaments follow suit and saying we're only going to be competing in first-person mode might be a good indicator that the official tournaments from PUBG will also follow the same suit. Especially if everybody just starts competing in first-person perspective, then all the competitive teams will just start practicing and training in that, and it seems like that could easily just become the way things are from now on. Now, during the Gamescom Invitational, Brendan Green, aka PlayerUnknown, teased an image of the new desert map, and we gleaned a bunch of info from it. I have a whole video kind of dedicated to analyzing that image and what we can get from it, but there was also an interview done with Brendan Green which shed a little bit more light on what could be coming in that map. Initially, we thought it was going to be a 4x4 map. I was kind of excited about this as it sounded like it might be a little bit less computer intensive, and it might also impact the pacing of the game to make it a bit faster, so different maps would play out differently. We learned recently though from this new video that the map is actually going to be an 8x8. Initially they were looking at 4x4 and decided that based on how they like the pacing of the game, they wanted to increase it to an 8x8 size. I gotta say I'm a little disappointed by this. Obviously I have no idea how the map is going to play out just from looking at an image of it, but I was hoping for something a bit different, but we'll just have to wait and see how 8x8 plays out. They also mentioned that they're using a different topographical mapping technique to make the terrain a bit more realistic. So rather than having these long, smooth spanses of field, there's going to be a lot more divots and bumps in them. And Brendan said that actually makes firefights out in the open a lot more interesting, as there's just a decent amount of natural cover that doesn't even have to be rocks. However, he did mention that it makes driving out in open terrain significantly more difficult. So it'll be interesting to see how the driving meta shifts up because of this as well. Now, when it comes to the juggernaut status of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, every single week there seems to be a bit of news on this game that just kind of like makes you stop and think for a bit, and this week is no different. PUBG surpassed Dota 2 on Steam. Dota 2 is the most popular game on Steam right now and has been for quite a long time, and PUBG is basically neck and neck with Dota 2 right now and occasionally surpassing it with player numbers. Merely weeks ago, I was giving the exact same news regarding PUBG and Counter-Strike, and it seems like PUBG not only has surpassed Counter-Strike now, but it's just on average sitting a good 200,000 players higher than Counter-Strike's player counts. This is absolutely insane. At Gamescom, they announced that 8 million copies of the game was sold, and I'm sure within a week or two they'll be announcing 9 million copies sold. The game itself actually seems to be increasing in popularity exponentially, and I'm sure give it a week or two and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds will be sitting comfortably ahead of Dota 2 as the most popular game on Steam. And think about this for a second. PUBG is a PC-only game. I know, many of you guys in the comments are always like, when is this coming to console? When is this game releasing on console? There's a lot of console players that want to get their hands on this, and with the Xbox One X release, I believe that's when the PUBG console version is coming out, and so console players will get their hands on, and at that point, I mean, the player counts for this game are just going to be astronomical. Now, how is this affecting the player counts of other games out there? Obviously, new gamers are born every day and we have new people playing video games. However, the numbers that PUBG are pulling right now are not new gamers. These are gamers who have been playing games like Counter-Strike and H1Z1 and other first-person shooters. And Twitter user SteamSpy posted an interesting stat showing that 55% of PUBG owners are CSGO players, and they used to play CSGO 50% more than the average person, but now they play 30% less. So PUBG has taken a huge cut out of the CSGO player base, and unsurprisingly, a very large cut out of the H1Z1 player base, which we've seen a decline in since July. Now, none of this is particularly surprising. H1Z1 and CSGO are not in trouble by any means. They still have very large, very healthy player bases, big enough to easily fund the development and progression of their games for probably years to come. That being said, it is still interesting to watch how PUBG comes out of nowhere and really does kind of upset the gaming market. People weren't anticipating a title like this. They weren't anticipating a new IP just blasting onto the scene and stealing players from other games, and it's very interesting to follow. Now, as much fun as it is to get wrapped up in the stats and sort of the hype and excitement of this game growing at just an insane pace, it's not to say that PUBG is not still basically an early access, a beta game, a non-feature complete game with lots of bugs, laggy netcode, and other interesting issues cropping up. Now, with the recent cosmetic influx of new PUBG crates from the Gamescom Invitational and other crates with extremely rare things that are now selling for hundreds and hundreds of dollars on the Steam Marketplace, there's an actual value in getting battle points in PUBG to get crates so that you can then sell those crates or sell the items from the crates on the Steam Marketplace and make an actual living off of it. I'm sure some people are trying to figure it out right now. Gold farmers in China are probably working with business models on how to do this, and a recent video from X Factor has shown one of the bigger problems from this, in that when you queue up for a first-person perspective game of PUBG, any of those games could have 20 to 30 AFK players. Not only is this a problem for the game mode in that at the start of the round, about 20 to 30 players will die from other players dropping with them and punching them to death, but it's also an issue in that AFK players can gain battle points from essentially doing nothing, so it makes sense for people to use bots to automatically queue up into game after game to earn battle points over the course of a day, which you can then use to buy battle packs, which will give you items that you can then sell on the Steam Marketplace. So you can basically make money off of the system by doing nothing. I think this is something that PUBG needs to address pretty much immediately to try and stomp out any sort of exploiting of their game client to make free money online, which in turn also affects and messes with the meta of the multiplayer matches, as we are now seeing in first-person perspective games, especially in squads, with the quantity of AFK players. It's absolutely insane, and the fact that 60 seconds into any match, you're down 30 players, and by the end game, you're working with large circles that have like 20 players or so in them. It really messes with the meta of the game, and I hope PUBG addresses this issue as soon as possible. This isn't a new issue to gaming in general. I used to play EVE Online, and there were people that would use bots to basically mine in the game all day long, which would drastically affect the in-game economy and stuff. And the developers made some pretty cool tools to track basically player algorithms, player habits and stuff, and they could tell with like 99.999% certainty who was botting and who was not botting. I have a feeling it would be even simpler to detect this in PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, so hopefully the devs are trying to create some tools for this as we speak. Now, of course, some of the other issues regarding first-person perspective are the fact that it's region-locked, and players aren't going to not play it because it's not in their region. They're going to play in other regions, which increases the amount of netcode and desync issues and all the kind of crappiness with it. In addition to which, there seems to be no ranking system for the first-person perspective, which means that everybody has to queue into these matches with bots and lower-ranked players. And so creating a rank system could just allow people to sort of aim for higher ranked play and just more exciting games. The community manager on Twitter recently stated that they are working on it. Stay tuned, and hopefully in the very near future we will have ranked games and all region play for first person mode. So that's exciting. Obviously the devs know about it, and it's a top priority. And in our final bit of PUBG news, there was a small patch, I believe today, that's 900 megabytes. It doesn't change a whole lot with the game. It removes the graffiti from Gamescom, so the team names won't be in game anymore. It gets rid of the Twitch account link button, and it updates the leaderboards for third person perspective players. So the leaderboards, I believe, have been reset now. Anyway, that wraps it up for this state of the game video. Still really enjoying the heck out of PUBG. Can't wait for that new desert map to come out and more updates to improve the netcode and performance. As always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap signing off.